what it's like crossing the Drake Passage to Antarctica. If you've ever heard about Antarctica, you've probably heard people talk about the Drake Passage. It's the body of water between the tip of South America and the peninsula of Antarctica. And it's what everybody crosses to get to Antarctica if you go by ship. Let me tell you a little bit about it. I've been to Antarctica twice, and I've had two different experiences on the Drake. One was pretty good, one was maybe not quite so good. So there's two settings for the Drake Passage that Mother Nature gives us. You either get the Drake Lake or you get the Drake Shake. There is a way to measure it. I would have to look back at my expedition photos because I did take a picture of the slide the expedition team presented. And I can maybe drop that in the comments if I remember. But let's start with talking about the Drake Lake. It doesn't get near the attention that the Drake Shake does, but a Drake Lake is when you're crossing the Drake and your your ship basically doesn't move. It's almost like you're cruising versus on an expedition ship, and it is by far the best type of crossing that you can have. It's the type of crossing where people don't get seasick, people don't disappear into their cabin for 2 to 3 days. You get to enjoy being on the ship, being outside. You get to do all sorts of things like bird watching and different types of citizen science on the expedition ship. You don't have to worry about your plates falling off the tables while you're dining. It really is the best experience. And the Drake Lake looks like everything from just calm, flat seas to I think about I want to say about 2-ish meters. Again, don't quote me on that. I will have to look back to see the chart for where the Drake Lake and Drake Shake separate, that dividing line that ships, crews, and scientists use to measure it, the expedition team as well. But that is the Drake Lake. It is what everybody wants, and it's what I hope for you on your trip to Antarctica. On the flip side, and I think what most people experience is the Drake Shake. I've experienced it once, and it was not my favorite experience. I'm very fortunate that I don't get seasick, so it really wasn't that bad, but it is still one heck of an experience. And so you may or may not have seen a few years ago videos that went viral of people sliding across the back deck of the ship. That video was posted by My Life's a Travel Movie, Alyssa Ramos, and she took a group of us, myself included, on a group trip to Antarctica, and that is what we experienced. The ship was rocking at 30 degrees to the horizon. So if you have your horizon line, we were rocking about like here. It was crazy. You really were able to slide across the decks of the ship. I do not recommend that, by the way. Safety first, always. You don't want to go overboard. That's just, no one wants that. But it was really, really crazy to watch everything in the ship that wasn't tied down shift. So our curtains, as we would rock, would lean out. And there was one day we were dining and everything on the ship would shift. So you'd be like eating and holding your plate as you rocked this way. And then as you got level, you would change your fork, your knife, whatever, and you'd hold your stuff as you rocked this way. It was wild. And this was the first season that Intrepid, that's who the expedition company ship, anyway, operator that I went with had this ship. So they didn't have like non-skid. I don't know what it's called, but it's like that non-skid, usually black, foamy kind of stuff that you can put on tables and in shelves and places. They didn't have that on the dining tables. They just had tablecloths. So all of our stuff really was shifting back and forth. On the way back from Antarctica, we had multiple people unfortunately fall out of their chairs. No one was harmed. It was wild. And there were days when I would be in my cabin, and waves would hit the front of the ship, and you could hear it reverberate down the ship. There was one day I caught air in bed. There was at least one time in the dining room I was walking, and next thing I know, the ship was not below me. I was just walking in air. I was unharmed. It's just a crazy, crazy experience. The ship's crew, if there's anything that isn't tied down, like we had like a little library section on the ship. They would take the tables and flip them over. So if they did slide, they were on their surface or their tops. Like this would be on the floor and their legs were up. It was craziness. People would disappear on the ship for like I guess about 2 days it took us to cross the Drake, and we're going, oh, who are you? Wild, just wild. I have so many stories about it, and it's it's really not as scary as I think people like to make it out to be, but it is very humbling, perhaps, to realize you are at the mercy of Mother Nature. You're out in the middle of nowhere. There is marine traffic, so there are ships, but you're still, something happens, you really kind of are on your own. It's wild, a wild experience. I unfortunately happened that first expedition. Unfortunately, I happened to be on the Drake on the ship when another ship was hit by a rogue wave. And unfortunately, people did pass away on that in that incident. So all I have to say is as much fun and enjoyment you can get from the videos and your stories of the Drake shake after after everybody is back and safe back on land and in port in Ushuaia. Just remember that it is a very serious thing. Accidents unfortunately do happen. So my hope, if you do cross the Drake, is that you don't end up with a Drake shake. I know there are a lot of people that, I want it just to experience it. I tell everybody you really do not want it. It is not something that anybody should ever ask for. Of course, it's safer to be on calmer seas, and I'll get off my soapbox on that one. But all that to be said, ships cross the Drake on a daily basis, and accidents are rare, especially fatal accidents are rare. And hands, just, a round of applause every single time that a ship makes it across safely to the crew, because without them, none of it would be possible. It's incredible to watch the crew still feed all of us. The people up on the bridge, everyone from the captain to the rest of the crew, they're navigating and steering the ship, keeping all of us safe. The expedition team keeping us safe. The doctors on board keeping us safe. It's really they're so deserving of all the credit for keeping everybody safe. And I know I've kind of digressed, I guess, a little bit from what the Drake is like, but I do think that's really important, just kind of have a whole picture of everything. So maybe I'll end this by saying, what do you do to help navigate a Drake shake? The best thing you can do is take seasickness meds. There's Dramamine. There's patches as well that you can get from your doctor and put behind your ear. They do have some side effects I've heard of from people, causing dry mouth and different things, which is just insult to injury in a way when you're in Antarctica, because it is very dry. So stay hydrated. I find that laying down is great. Sleeping through it is great. I know for me, I don't get seasick, but being on a rocking ship is something akin to being in a car, an airplane, or like rocking. It puts me to sleep. So I spend a lot of the Drake actually like very groggy and asleep, just because it's just kind of this like rocking, comfy motion. Other things you can do that are not necessarily in your control, but they're always worth keeping in mind, is requesting or booking a cabin as centered on the ship as possible. So that's centered both lengthwise and height-wise of the ship. Because think of it as like a gimbal. The closer you are to the center, the less motion you're going to have. And if you're unfortunately unable to get a cabin towards the center of the ship, spend your days, if you can, hanging out towards the center of the ship is just helpful for helping, reduce the amount of motion. And I think that's kind of where I'm going to leave this. I could talk about the Drake for a long time, but that's a quick overview. I hope that's helpful. Hope I didn't scare anybody away. And yeah, if you've been to Antarctica and you've had any experiences with the Drake, let me know in the comments. Always interested to swap stories, and I'll catch you on the next one.